That's funny. I think I'm live everywhere now. This chat thing doesn't work. Hey, if anybody jumps on here, or I'll see, I guess, in a minute, anybody that does jump on, um, we're notifying viewers here on live. Yeah, if anybody does jump on here uh, and has any idea, I need to reach out to Restream. I'm trying to use Restream so that I can stream to apps like that you can't stream to, like LinkedIn. I can't even stream to LinkedIn without using Restream, but then I can't chat. Hey, Brian, what's happening? Sonata, reality superstar. Nice. All right. So, finance is what I tend to talk about, but I spin that into about a million different stories because that is what I enjoy. And I had a funny question about a half hour ago when I was live. And that funny question was this: somebody was pre-assuming that they knew don't show for 10 minutes, more creators want to co-host. I don't know what that means. So anyway, yeah, I don't know who that is, although I'm always down to have somebody co-host with me. That's always a good thing. um okay, so in any case, live, so I had somebody ask me something. They said, hey, listen, I was explaining why and how you know that these guys are not making 80% a year and 100% a year on TikTok, and they sit in front of their charts and they have all these screens and they're trying to be fancy. I've been doing this for 25 years. I do it on a laptop. I do it using price and volume. I do it on one screen. That's all you need. Second, that is not for 99% of the people out there that are watching this stuff. 99% of you, that doesn't apply. The funny question I was asked was, if you're so good at this, if you know what you're doing financially so well, why stuff me? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you rich? Why aren't you problems with that? I know what I am. How do you know if I am or if I am not rich? Second, oh, we're reconnecting. Okay, so look on down a little bit. All right. Secondly, you can what you do, and you still have. Now, let me explain to you what that. Like, learn how to invest, learn how to optimize, and you can break it down. How much money I have and where it came from is nobody's business. I would never share it with a bunch of strangers online, even if that were the case. I pretty much only let people know that I live in Southern California. I do that through my stories because it's where I live, so it's what I talk about. But let's say NASCAR driver. Actually, let's take it a step further. Let's say Formula One drivers, not further as in more difficult, better, or worse. But let's talk about Formula One drivers, best drivers on the planet. I challenge anyone to argue that fact that Formula One drivers are not the best drivers on the planet. All right. They know those cars. They have an entire team of guys that know exactly how that car runs. They know the exact specs of that track, when to turn, when to go faster, when to go slower. All of this information being fed to them in real time as they race. The best driver in the world and the best car in the world with the best team in the world. And what percentage of those drivers die each year in a car accident? Right. That is the answer to someone's question who says, if you know so much about money, then why is it that you're not wealthy? Why haven't you created generational wealth? Lots of answers to that question. You can be the best at whatever it is that you do. I use Formula One as an example because I love Formula One driving. It's insane. It's awesome. People have no idea about the athleticism those people have to do that. Like it blows my mind. It amazes me. I love it. Thank you so much for the likes. Guys, follow, share, please, if you're enjoying what we're talking about. I greatly appreciate it. And those Formula One drivers, they die each year. They're in a profession that you die when you're wrong. And they have everything on their side. So let me ask you this, especially those of you that are like 35 and younger, maybe even 40 and younger, and you just haven't learned this lesson yet. And I say yet because you will. Trust me when I tell you that there are about a million things throughout your life that could take money, regardless of how much you know or how little you know. Now, I'm not even giving you any insight into my financial position. I don't waste my time with that. But what I'll tell you is you can know everything in the world. You can have the best car, the best driver, the best maps, the best manager, the best crew, the best everyone, and you can still die in a fiery car crash. So to ask someone online, and I don't mean this just about me, I'm not offended by the question. I'm not telling you anything about me, but I'm not offended by the question. But to ask a question like that shows how little that you actually know on the subject. And the fact is, you should probably listen a little longer than the average person. Somebody here loves Harris and wants you all to know about it. It is Harris 2024 about 100 times over. And they probably want someone who loves Trump to come on here so they can start fighting. But then I will have to block you because I don't want any fighting over elections on this channel. But I will tell you this when it comes to the election. Those of you out there that don't know this yet, maybe you're just a little younger. You just haven't been around the block yet and you're not aware. These presidential elections, they don't mean much to your life. They don't have much of an impact to your life. If you care about where you live, your life, you want to have a real impact on your day-to-day life, you have to vote locally. You have to vote locally. You have to start with your local representatives, work your way up to real city, on and on and on, all the way up to the state level, because that is where you truly affect change. That's where you affect change. You affect change at that level. Why? Because we have an electoral college. A lot of people complain about the electoral college, but the fact of the matter is, hold on, there we go. Now you're done, bud. I don't care if you love a candidate. You're welcome to say it, but don't just litter all over my page with that stuff. But if you care about the presidency and who wins, and then I hope that you understand that your state representatives are going to be the ones that decide that, not you. That's why the popular vote, there can be more votes in the popular vote, and that person can still lose the presidency. Now, first off, there's nothing wrong with that for those of you that don't understand. It should be that way. Why? Because if it wasn't that way, there's no need to even have Alaska, Iowa. I mean, there's a million states I can name, North Dakota, South Dakota. These states would have no representation without the Electoral College. No representation whatsoever, because they simply don't have enough people to matter. So you have an electoral college where obviously places like California, New York, Pennsylvania, the states of Florida, the places, Texas, the place that have a lot of people, they get more electoral votes, right? Those electoral votes are cast by your state representatives. So while you may think that your popular vote for the president matters, it actually is completely meaningless. If you didn't vote for your governor, if you're not voting for your mayor, if you're not voting for your school board, if you're not voting for your city council, you're just wasting time blowing hot air. It's fun to talk about, but it doesn't mean squat. Doesn't mean squat. Today will be decided by the people that are the state representatives of the states. It's that simple. Okay, so we're moving on. We were talking about why you should never assume or even ask why someone, if you're so good at this, then why aren't you rich? That question is ridiculous for a couple reasons. I hope I explained that well, but you can take that like in any way you want. Like the greatest rock climbers in the world die. Period. It doesn't take very many mistakes to screw up your life, no matter what you do in your life. You can be, trust me when I tell you, especially for you entrepreneurs out there, and that's what I consider myself to be. For you entrepreneurs out there, a couple missteps, you're broke. Doesn't matter what you know about money, you're broke. And, the truth is, for most of you, you would never be interested in being a day trader. If a day trader comes at you and says that, oh, I make 80% a year, let me explain to you why that person's lying to you, just so you know. for yourself so you understand what the reality of your situation is. So there's a thing called the rule of 72, and it's real simple. The rule of 72 simply means that you take the percentage of a return that you make, you divide it by 72, and that is how often your money flips. So if you're making 10% a year every 7.2 years, your money would flip. Let's say you have 35 years in front of you. You're 25 years old. You have 35 years in front of you. You have $100,000, right? And you're making 10% a year. You're going to have 5 flips. So you're 100 to 200, 200 to 400, 400 to 800, 800 to 1.6, 1.6 to 3.2 million. Your original $100,000 earning 10% a year just made you $3.2 million. Now, if you make it 20%, you have an additional 5 flips. It's going to flip twice as fast, right? 10%, 20%. It's going to flip twice as fast. So you had 3.6%, this or 3.6 million if you earn 10% a year and you held it for 35 years. So if you make 20%, which is just 10% more per year, your 3.6 will be 7.2, which will then be 14.4, 28.8, 56.4, 112.8. You have $112.8 million in 35 years if you make 20% a year on 100 grand. And you want to believe that some guy online is making 80% a year. It's not happening. Can you do 15 to 20% per year? Absolutely, you can. Absolutely. To do 20% a year, 15 to 20% per year, all you have to do is avoid a few of the major bear markets that we experience, that you'll experience throughout your life. If you're able to avoid those bear markets, you will average those returns. And you just saw what it could do for 100 grand. And that's how you know that people out there, A, make a lot of financial mistakes throughout their life. And I don't care if they're in finance or a stockbroker, a CFO, or a CEO. I can tell you the greatest story ever. And I will right now. So I'm not going to give you I got to be careful. So I'm not going to tell you when this happened, but I'm going to tell you the company and I'm going to tell you who the person was, just that he was an executive. Okay. I'm in San Diego. I work at Merrill Lynch down on B Street. It's the Darth Vader building in San Diego. And they call it that because it's this big, giant, tall, black skyscraper. I work in there. Guy comes in, works for Amlin Pharmaceuticals. It's a San Diego company. He is a very high level executive. He works directly with the CEO. He's married. He has a wife. It's him and his wife. Okay. They had I think it was they each had like $1.2 million and they had it completely tied up in Amlin Pharmaceuticals. This is back in 2000. It's either late 2006 or early 2007. He comes in, we sit down, himself, his wife, me. They have 2.4 million, 2.2 million. It was something like that in assets. And they're saying, okay, what do I do with this money? Like, what is the intelligent decision to make? I can tell you right now that the guy's wife was far more interested in being there than he was. He wasn't that interested in being there. The funny thing was he was the one that took the meeting because back then I got all my meetings through cold calls, all of them, 100%. I'm not ashamed of that at all. Used to cold call 4 hours a day. I would have a beating headache after 4 hours. Used to destroy me, all the cold calling I would do. I would cold call until the sound of the beep would make literally my head want to explode. And that takes about 4 hours of legitimate cold calling. So for you guys out there that are listening to these business guys tell you they cold call for 8 hours a day, liars, 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 liars. I did it. I was there. And everybody thought I was crazy. They were like, how do you do that? How can you handle that? Because nobody can handle that amount of hours. Now, back to the story. We're back to the big executive at Amlin Pharmaceuticals. I'm with his wife. They have we're going to call it 2.4 million moving forward. They have 2.4 million in assets. I tell him, listen, and she worked there too. She wasn't as high as an executive as he was, but I think she invested more in their options than he did. It doesn't matter. I remember that their money was very equivalent. And so anyway, we sit down and I say, look, you work for the company. You both work for the company. You've made a lot of money. You've sunk a lot of money into this stock, right? And the stock has done amazing. The market is starting to look a little heavy. It's starting to look a little tired. You're very concentrated in your positions. You need to diversify this out. How you would like to do that, we can talk about, but you got to diversify this money out. Hey, if you're enjoying the story, please like the screen. Hit likes and subscribes and follows, but the likes really help me in these live things to I don't know what the hell they do if you want me to be perfectly honest with you, but I know that you should be doing it. Also, my website www.prometheaninvesting.com will tell you a lot about who I am as well. And I am D Miller at prometheaninvesting.com. So back to the story. I go in and he says, okay, great. I break down his portfolio for him. I show him what I'll do. I am not an asset allocation manager. I want to make that very clear. I do not manage money through asset allocation. Never did. Well, not never. My first 3 years in business, I did asset allocation, and I did a lot of it, to be fair. But my first 3 years, I did asset allocation. After that, I didn't. Okay. And I learned slowly, and I was careful with my clients' money. All right. But at that point, I would consider myself a master investment manager at that point. I have no idea how many hours I've sunk in. You hear the term like 10,000 hours a lot. I think it's a lot more than that myself. I think it takes a lot more than that. That's just my opinion. But I sat down, I gave him a real breakdown of what I would really do, why I would do it. At that time, I was using a sector rotation strategy that went into powerful sectors, out of weak sectors. I minimized it, right? So it wasn't all in and all out. I minimized it. And he said, no. 2 weeks later, no, we're good where we are. We're good with what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. And I remember that's the reason I know it was late '06 or early '07 is that I was calling him in late 2007 and I was telling him pharmaceuticals look really bad because he was with Amlin. And look, when you're in that business, everybody, when you're a financial advisor, when you sit down and you actually have a really good meeting with somebody who has a lot of money, they never go off your radar. Like you stay and you talk to them and you follow up with them, especially if you see something you can help with. And with this guy, I knew I could help this guy. I knew I could. So I'm calling him late 2007. No, we're not interested. We're good. We're happy. I know the CEO personally, good friend of mine. Like you can't know more about this company than I know, and I know what's coming. And I told him it looks like cash flow is coming out of the market, like in big numbers. There's just cash flow being pulled from the market. It's disappearing. Like more volume than I've ever seen. For those of you that don't know, the reason volume is so important in a market, the reason that cash flow is so important in a market is because, like anything, if I give you a bunch of cash, things are going to cost more. It's inflation. It's the same thing with a stock market. If I give the stock market a bunch of cash, people are going to be able to bid it up because they have more money. It's like what you experienced in 2021, right? 2020, 2021, 2022 in the real estate market. What happened was the government dished out $1.5 trillion. They dished it out. And so everybody got it. And all of a sudden we're wondering, why are real estate prices booming so much? Why are real estate prices so high? Well, it's real simple as to why real estate prices are so high. It's because we just gave out $1.5 trillion. It's inflation within the markets because people put their money to work if they're smart, and it creates inflation. Well, so the reverse happens when you suck it out, which makes like even right now a pretty scary time. How's that going to work out? I personally think we're going to be taking a lot of cash flow from foreign investors, from foreign countries. We are definitely going global. So I think there's a lot of money going to pour to the US that we're not used to seeing. But that's for another time. That's for another conversation. For this conversation, we're back to that high level executive at Amlin Pharmaceuticals in San Diego. So market starts to pull off in '07. Going. April of '08, AIG files for bankruptcy. Now, for those of you that think history is honest and that your phone tells you the truth, Google when AIG went bankrupt. Google when they announced they were going bankrupt. It's going to tell you somewhere in like October or November of 2008. That's a lie. It was March or April of 2008. How do I know? Because that was one of the biggest reasons I started pulling all of my clients out of the market and getting them into a flat position. Flat meaning they had no exposure to the stock market. I wasn't as afraid of the bond market at the time, but I was pulling them out of equities like you wouldn't believe. By the time the 2008 crash has started in September, I was down to less than 10% in equities. By the time that second crash in November hit, I was 30% short into that market. Now, this isn't to brag about that because that's not what this conversation is about. what this conversation is about is this high-level executive at Amylin Pharmaceuticals who had direct access to the CEO and exactly what was going on with that company. And guess what? He never diversified the 2.4 million he and his wife had. He works in San Francisco right now at some startup. He and his wife got divorced. She moved back to, oh, I can't tell you. She moved out of the country, just in case someone's swift with Google. I don't want to expose this person because this would not be hard to look out. This would not be hard to look up. So she moved back to where they were from originally, and he has $110,000 account. How do I know that? Because I got an email from him a few years ago just saying how he wished he listened. He made a big mistake. And that all came on the heels of, like, I don't know. I mean, sadly, a divorce, maybe a breakdown of some sort. I have no idea, but I can tell you this. So someone asked me, why aren't you wealthy? I can tell you right now, he was very, very. He's in his mid 60s now, and he's starting over from one financial mistake. High level executive at a very big pharmaceutical company, Amylin Pharmaceuticals. So it doesn't matter who you are and what you think you know. I can tell you that the first thing you have to do is have a solid financial plan. I don't know who that is. So the first thing you have to do is you have to have a very solid financial plan. Once you have that solid financial plan, you can then start. Oh, let's see how that happened. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, oh, sorry about that for everybody who's watching. This just clicked off. It's okay. There, let me just go back and turn this back on. It's a live I do here. So the point was that regardless of what you know, regardless of what you do and how you make your living, the fact of the matter remains that it doesn't take much of a mistake to have a terrible financial fallout. And I'll never forget the guy I'm talking to you about, because the truth is, I felt and feel really bad, and I sympathize with his situation a lot. It was a terrible, terrible thing to happen to someone. And this was someone, though. So if you're out there and you're watching right now and you think to yourself, well, I know this and I know that and I know this person and I know how to read this economic report and I know how to read that economic report, I believe you. Okay. Here's the problem. It's not about that anymore. And I really think that at this point, people should be clued into that fact. I don't think it should really be a mystery anymore. And what I mean by that, it shouldn't be a mystery anymore, is let me ask you a question. Economically, as a country, economics, I don't care what the numbers say. When you're outside your house and you're walking around, would you say things are better or worse than 2019, 2018? Would you say life is better or worse than 2018 or 2019? I think 99% of people would say they are experiencing worse economic times now than they were in 2018 and 2019. Now, how's the stock market done since 2018, 2019? How's that done? So for all the economics majors out there who tell you that the stock market is based on the economy, the world economy, whatever sorts of things they tell you it's based on, let me just ask you, the US economy, is it better or worse than 2018 and 2019? Infinitely worse. It's not even a conversation. Unless you are someone that has a huge investment account and owned a bunch of real estate back in 2018 or 2019, Everything's worse. Everything is worse. So here's the question. If the economy is worse, someone says it's much better. Okay, who cares what my name is? I don't care what your name is. That's a funny handle. Somebody who has a handle says, who cares what my name is? It's much better. So how's it much better? In what way? Would you say that people have more money now? There's more jobs. How's it better? Because someone's saying it's better. I just would like to hear why they think it's better. I can give you a million reasons why it's worse, but I'd be interested to know why it's better. Okay, well, if who cares what my name is tells me why it's better, I'll respond. Until then, I'm going to tell you that there are less jobs. New homeowners. Interesting fact that came out today. New home ownership purchasing has hit the eldest level in history of monitoring it. So that's 60 years or so. We've been monitoring how old new homeowners were. And that number has climbed. Last year, I think it was at 28 years old, was the average age for a new homeowner. And they were able to purchase their home through their income. Well, we had a fun report come out today. And if you don't believe me, you can look on your Apple news source or whatever news source you go to. The new age for new homeowners is 38 years old. And the money that they have to buy that new home was inherited from their family. That is the most interesting figure I've ever heard in my life. Oh, and it goes on to say that those with average jobs, such as EMTs, hairstylists, it listed hairstylists, real estate agents. It was just a bunch of like normal jobs. Okay, it was a bunch of normal jobs. They will never be able to afford a home in the United States. That's what the article went on to say. All right. Employment is down. 90% of new employment is part-time work. Median income, folks, that's income is down from 2020. Do you understand that life has gotten infinitely more expensive and your income is less? So sometimes you change with change. Sometimes change is thrust upon you. In this case, change is thrust upon us, period. Encourage, oh yeah, hey guys, make sure you're sharing my live, inviting friends. Please hit the like button. I think I just got one, which thank you so much. I've been on live a lot today, but I know the likes help other people actually see what I'm talking about. So I'd appreciate it if you do that. Follow me. Check out my stuff, prometheaninvesting.com. Take a look at it. It'll tell you a little bit more about who I am. But as you watch me, you'll kind of get to know. You'll get to know a bit more about who I am. So affordability, guys. Sometimes change is thrust upon you. So change is thrust upon us. You can sit there and be mad, and you can be angry about the fact that life has gotten more expensive and you make less money, or you can take action. What is the only way you can take action? Well, first off, you can't work more hours in a day. You can't do it. No one can. You cannot work more hours in a 24-hour day. There's 24 hours. You're going to need to eat. You're going to need to sleep. You're going to need to rest. You have to do all these things, right? So you can't add hours to the day. But what you can do is you can optimize what you do have. Okay. So what do you have? Well, you're intelligent. Hopefully you're saving some money. I think most people are trying to save money. Some can, some can't, right? You're trying to invest it intelligently along the way. Well, the first thing you need to do, the first thing you have to do is you have to have a target, everybody. Yeah. You have to have a target to know how to get there. Listen, there's this old, it's not old. I mean, every pilot in the earth knows what vectoring means. But vectoring is like if you take off from New York and you're going to LA, if a pilot aims the plane from New York at LA, hits like the hits cruise control or whatever. I know it's called autopilot, but I don't even know if that's real. But anyway, if he hits autopilot, by the time he was supposed to get to LA, he's as likely to be over Canada as he is over Mexico, out of gas with nowhere to go. Why? Because along the way, there's going to be storms, there's going to be high pressure, there's going to be low pressure. There's times where he's going to need to use more fuel. There's going to be times where he needs to conserve fuel. So he vectors around this thing. He makes adjustments throughout his travel from New York to LA. That's how he, manages to get from New York to LA. You have to do the same thing in your financial life. You can have an amazing start. You can have a fueled up plane. You can know how to fly. You can know where you're going. You can have everything, right? And you can get there as long as you vector along the way. But let me ask you this. If you just fuel up a plane in New York and someone says, hey, where are you going? And you say, I don't know, west. How intelligent is that? That's the same thing as in your financial life. You have to pick very specific targets. Look, I make X right now. I want to make Y by the time I'm 55. I want to pay for 2 kids' colleges. I want to have cars. I want to go on 2 vacations a year. And I expect the stock market to return 10% per year. I want to know how I accomplish that. Okay, you can. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to start setting up a financial plan. So you're going to pick all those targets, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick a financial plan that focuses on Monte Carlo simulation. What is Monte Carlo simulation? Well, for any of you gamblers out there and a lot of you gamers out there, you should know what Monte Carlo is. Basically, it's this. It takes your life and it multiplies it by 1,000. So it says, okay, Derek lives 1,000 lifetimes. That's me. I'm going to live 1,000 lifetimes. Then what it does is it takes the stock market and it mixes up all the returns, the order they happen, and the year they happen. What do I mean by that? Well, in Derek's first lifetime, he's going to have a bull market that lasts 20 years. Then he's going to hit a bear market that lasts 3 years. And then he's going to have a flat market that lasts 20 years. In year 2, he's going to have a bear market that starts first. That's going to last 30 years. Then he's going to have a bull market that lasts 20 years. Then he's going to have a flat market that lasts 2 years. Then he's going to have a bull market that lasts 40 years. And it mixes all these markets up. Bull markets are up markets, guys. Bear markets are down markets. All of those markets are going to be mixed up. And it's going to mix it up 1,000 times over 1,000 of my lives. And then at the end, it's going to say, Derek has a X percentage, let's say 80%. Derek has an 80% chance that he'll succeed. So what does that mean? Well, that means in 800 of my 1,000 lifetimes, I succeeded. I made it. In a Monte Carlo simulation, that is a good number. We're happy with that. We are happy with an 80% success rate, okay? Why is that so important? Because the stock market is very unknowable. Things do change. Things do shift. What if today most of your money is in the stock market, right? The S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow. And what if 20 years from now, most of your money is over in crypto? So you're in Bitcoin, other currencies, right? You're operating on the blockchain. What if that switch were to happen? Well, while you can't know that that's going to happen 20 years from now, what you can do is alter the range in which your returns occur. Because there's not any world that you're ever going to be returning 50% a year. There's not any world, unless you're proactive, that you're going to return 15 to 20% per year on average. That's not going to happen if you're proactive and if you learn investment management. And I'm not talking about day trading here, folks. I'm not even talking about swing trading, okay? I'm talking about the basics, how to avoid bear markets. Then maybe you get to 15 to 20%. Outside that, you're going to do 10% a year. That's the way it is. And it's probably slightly less than that. It's probably somewhere between 7 and 10% per year. Goldman Sachs is saying they expect the S&P to return about 3% per year over the next decade. So they really think it's going to be less than that. Now, if you don't know that and you haven't drawn targets according to these facts, how can you succeed? Furthermore, if you don't know exactly how much money you want to have, exactly how long you want to work, how many colleges you want to pay for, how many vacations you're going to have, what it takes to live your life, if you don't know those things, how could you ever succeed at them? That'd be like me saying, I want to be the greatest investor in history. And then some guy comes up to me and says, hey, Derek, how do you plan to be the greatest investor in history? I have no idea. I don't know. I just want to be it. That's the same thing as saying, I want to retire wealthy. I want to have all the toys on earth. I want to travel as much as I want. And I say, How do you plan to do that? And you say, I don't know, I'll work a lot and save money. That's like if you ask me how I'm going to be the best investor in the world, I don't know, I'm going to study investments. I'll start reading about investments. That's not a plan, that's an idea. So for those of you out there that are past the idea stage and you want to put an actual plan together, and like let's say you have a financial advisor, you'll do a plan with him once. You'll never hear about that plan again until there's a crash, until there's a bear market that your account loses 50%. Then he'll pull that plan up to make you feel comfortable again, and then he'll quickly put the plan back away. You'll never look at it again until there's another stock market drop. But if you actually know that you need to have a target, and a target that you pay attention to on an annual basis, I'm not trying to turn you into a financial advisor, just something that you're looking at on an annual basis. You look at it for each month, you look at it for 1 hour. If you know that you should be doing that, go to www.prometheaninvesting.com. It's on my page, right? It's on my profile. Go to prometheaninvesting.com. I have a course in there, Invest Like a Pro. It is $500. I have made that course so cheap so that no one can have an excuse not to buy it. Oh, I only have $1,000 invested. Great. Take $500 of that $1,000 out. Go get that course and start a proper financial foundation for yourself, because that's where it starts. And let me tell you something. For those of you out there on LinkedIn that are watching me and you have a financial advisor, I'm not telling you not to have a financial advisor. But what I will tell you is this. Even if you have as little as $50,000 a year, in my course, you get a 70-page workbook. You get over 7 hours of video tutorials. I start with the history of Wall Street. I move on to setting up a true financial plan using Monte Carlo simulation. I then walk you through asset allocation, how to use it, how it works, and how to set up your own. Okay. I walk you through that. I show you how to set up like an E-Trade account, Ameriprise, whatever online source you want to use, how to transfer your money into it, and then how to auto rebalance all of that after setting up your budget for $500. So if you have a financial advisor, and even if you only have 50 grand, you're giving that guy 1% a year. That's $500. You buy my course, you'll know everything that person's doing for you. You'll be doing it yourself proactively. A sixth grader could do this stuff. This is not complicated. Most of the work that you're going to do in setting up a financial plan is work you have to do anyway. It's research on your life. It's research on who you are. To set up a financial plan, you have to do the work. Like I was a financial advisor for 15 years. If you came in and asked me that I need to get a financial plan set up, so on and so forth, all I'm going to do is ask you a bunch of questions, because there's no possible way I could know what to do for you until I knew you. So once you've answered all the questions, I'm going to plug those answers in to exactly what you're getting from my course. And then you'll see how easy it is to learn how to use asset allocation, how to set up, how to create your own model. You'll find out exactly how easy that is. It doesn't get any easier than that. All right, everyone. So it looks like I've been on for about 40 minutes. I know on TikTok somehow I accidentally just kind of closed out for no reason. I'm going to take a break here for about an hour because I'm going to head on over, I think, to Facebook, which I know I'm streaming on Facebook now, but I think if I stream on there exclusively, I can probably answer some chats or whatever. So I'm going to try to do that. In any case, thank you all so much for joining me. PrometheanInvesting.com. Listen, I do one-on-one coaching too. I do one-on-one coaching. One-on-one coaching is you got to take the course first. You have to have a financial plan. I can do it for you, but that's far more expensive than you doing it for yourself. Okay? I can do the financial plan for you, but like everything I do, it's by the hour. Everything I do is by the hour. This is something you are very capable of doing yourself, very inexpensively, and you'll have it forever. All right. Visit PrometheanInvesting.com. If you are interested in how I teach people to invest and how to trade and how to optimize, avoid bear markets, identify tops, when to invest, when is it a bottom, when is it oversold, reach out to me, dmiller@PrometheanInvesting.com. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I'm going to be back in about an hour.